The sky was quiet that morning. The usual hum of satellites and airplanes filled the air, and the sun rose over the city like any other day. But far above, beyond the reach of human eyes, something strange was happening. At the world's largest space observatory, Dr. Lena Hart stared at the screen in shock. A massive object was speeding toward Earth, faster than anything they had ever seen before. It was not blinking like a satellite, nor did it follow the path of any known asteroid or comet. It was something else, and something alien. The object was huge. It looked like a ship, a spaceship, with sharp edges and strange lights that flickered in colors no one on Earth had names for. But the most worrying thing was that it was heading straight for Earth. News broke quickly. Governments worldwide scrambled jets and satellites. Military commanders held emergency meetings. News anchors tried to explain what was happening, but no one had answers. In Washington, D.C., Jake Mercer sat quietly in his small workshop. Jake was a man who had seen many skies from many cockpits, a former Air Force pilot, now a civilian engineer. He fixed drones and worked on flight simulators. He was calm, experienced, and cautious. But even Jake felt a cold weight in his chest when he heard about the approaching ship. Jake's phone rang. It was an unknown number, but when he answered, a deep voice came through. "Mr. Mercer, this is Agent Collins. We need your help. It's urgent." Jake frowned. He wasn't used to being called by government agents. He listened carefully as Collins explained that the strange ship was not just a threat. It was connected to a secret alien technology Jake had once worked with years ago. The agency needed someone who could interface directly with the ship's systems, and Jake was the only person whose neural patterns matched the technology. Jake wanted to say no. He wanted to stay safe in his small world, but deep down he knew he couldn't. Earth needed him, and maybe for the first time in a long time, he felt alive. He agreed. 2 hours later, Jake was in a secret government base. Scientists and military officers surrounded a large control panel that showed the ship hanging above Earth like a dark moon. The ship was silent. It did not respond to any signals. It did not move. It just waited. Jake sat down at a neural interface machine. Thin wires connected from the machine to his temples. He closed his eyes. The machine hummed softly. Jake could feel a faint electric pulse as his mind synced with the machine. He reached out with his thoughts, trying to find a way into the alien ship systems. The silence was thick. But then, something flickered. A message appeared in his mind, a puzzle, a code, something ancient and alive. Jake smiled. This was the challenge he had been waiting for. Meanwhile, on the ship, hidden cameras watched Jake closely. The ship was not just a machine. It was a living entity, waiting for the right moment to act. The world outside waited, holding its breath. Jake woke up in a small, sterile room. The walls were white and smooth but softly glowing. He was no longer on Earth's base. He was inside the ship. He sat up slowly, feeling strange. His muscles ached differently, like they had been asleep for years. His vision was sharper. Sounds outside the room were muffled but clear. A voice echoed softly in the room. A calm, deep voice that seemed to come from everywhere. "Welcome, Jake Mercer." Jake looked around. No one was there. The voice continued. "You were chosen because you carry the strength of humanity. You carry the will to survive." Jake stood and walked to the door. It opened silently as he approached. Beyond the door was a vast corridor lined with glowing panels and strange symbols that shifted as he moved. He was alone, but he did not feel afraid. Instead, he felt a strange connection, as if the ship was alive and watching him. He explored, slowly, touching surfaces that hummed under his fingers. The ship's energy flowed through the walls. It was old, older than any human technology, but powerful. In a control room, Jake found a large screen showing Earth below, peaceful and unaware. Suddenly, alarms sounded in his mind. A warning. The ship was preparing for something. He hurried to a terminal and tried to access the ship's systems. The interface was unlike anything he had seen. It was both mechanical and organic. pulsing with life. He found a file marked Raz-7. The data revealed that the ship was a weapon created by an ancient alien race called the Vectari. Their mission was simple: conquer new worlds by taking control of the strongest minds and using them as pilots. Jake swallowed hard. He was the pilot. Back on Earth, news reports grew louder. Military leaders argued over what to do next. Some wanted to destroy the ship with missiles. Others thought it might be better to try communication, but no one knew that Jake was inside, trying to stop the ship from becoming a weapon. Jake sent a secret message back to Earth using the ship's communication channels. It was brief and hard to decode. Not enemy. Need time. The message was met with confusion and fear. Was Jake a traitor? Was he a threat? Jake knew the real battle was just beginning. He sat in the ship's command room and looked out at Earth, blue and beautiful, fragile and strong. He whispered to himself, "I never wanted to leave." Jake's heart pounded as he stood at the edge of the docking bay. The massive alien ship loomed before him, its surface shifting like liquid metal in the dim light of space. The ship was silent, but Jake could feel something inside it. A presence. Watching. Waiting. The door to the ship began to open slowly. It wasn't like any door Jake had seen before. Instead of swinging or sliding, the ship seemed to unfold itself, creating a passageway that stretched out like a living arm, welcoming him in. Jake swallowed hard. He had never felt anything like this. It was as if the ship knew him, as if it wanted him inside. Taking a deep breath, Jake stepped forward. The airlock sealed behind him with a soft hiss, and the door closed. Outside, the stars shimmered, but inside the ship everything was quiet and still. The corridor was wide and curved, glowing faintly with soft blue light. The walls were smooth like polished stone, but they pulsed gently under his touch. Strange symbols moved along the panels, changing shape as he walked. Jake reached out and traced one of the symbols with his finger. It felt warm. He walked deeper into the ship, feeling both fear and curiosity. Every step he took seemed to be recorded by the ship itself. He was not alone. Suddenly the lights dimmed. The air grew colder. Jake stopped and looked around. The ship was alive, not just a machine, but something more. It breathed, it watched, and it waited. In the center of a large chamber, a holographic map appeared. It showed Earth, with tiny dots blinking across the planet's surface. The dots represented cities, populations, and points of interest. Jake's eyes narrowed. The ship was studying Earth. A soft voice echoed in the room. It was calm, deep and full of strange power. "Welcome, Jake Mercer. You are chosen." Jake's jaw tightened. "Who are you? What do you want?" There was no answer. The voice was everywhere and nowhere. He moved toward a control panel. As he touched the screen, the ship responded instantly. Panels shifted, revealing data streams and alien text. Jake's mind raced. The ship was showing him its secrets. He focused on the data, searching for answers. He found logs, recordings, and files from the Vectari, the ancient alien race who had built the ship. They were warriors and conquerors, sending weapons like this to destroy or control other worlds. But this ship was different. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a living machine designed to bond with a pilot, to share strength, knowledge, and power. Jake realized the ship had chosen him because of something deep inside his mind, something the Vectari wanted to use. The thought made him shiver. He was not just a passenger. He was the pilot, the key. Outside the ship, Earth's leaders grew anxious. Satellites tracked the vessel's strange energy fields, and military commanders debated their next move. "Should we attack?" a general asked, pacing in a command room. "Not yet," an advisor replied. "We don't know what it can do. We need more information." News cameras showed the ship hanging in orbit, casting a dark shadow over Earth. People looked up at the sky, worried and curious. Back inside the ship, Jake tried to contact Earth again. His messages were short, scrambled, and filled with warnings. "I'm not your enemy," he sent. "Trust me. Give me time." But on Earth, Few people listened. Fear spread faster than facts. Some believed Jake had been taken over by the alien ship. Others thought he was helping the invaders. Jake knew he had to act fast. The ship began to change around him. Walls shifted and rooms appeared where there were none before. The corridors grew longer, twisting in impossible directions. Jake felt like he was inside a giant living maze. At times he heard whispers in his mind. They were not words but feelings, urges to give up, to surrender, to become one with the ship. But Jake fought back. He clenched his fists and told himself, "I'm still human. I decide." He discovered the ship could heal him. His old injuries from years of flying and crashes began to fade. His muscles grew stronger, his mind sharper. But with each improvement, he felt more connected to the ship, more dependent. One day, while exploring a new chamber, Jake found a room filled with strange pods. Inside each pod was a small, sleeping alien, or something like one. They were frozen in time, waiting. A voice echoed again. "These are the Vectory soldiers waiting for activation." Jake's stomach turned. The ship was not just a weapon for him. It was a seed for an army. He knew what would happen if the ship completed its mission. Earth would be conquered, not by fire and bombs, but by control. Jake returned to the control room and began working on a plan. He accessed the ship's code, trying to rewrite the invasion protocol. It was difficult. The ship resisted. The code was complex, built over centuries by the Vectari. It fought back with glitches, false data, and mental attacks. But Jake kept going. Days passed, or maybe only hours. Time inside the ship was strange. He lost track. Every moment, the ship tested him. It sent visions of power and glory, showing him what he could become if he gave in. But Jake held on. He thought of Earth, of his family, of the people who looked up at the stars and dreamed. He whispered to himself, "I won't let this ship win." Suddenly, the ship's energy surged. Alarms blared in Jake's mind. The invasion protocol was starting. The ship was waking up. Jake raced to the command center. He worked quickly, fingers flying over alien controls. He had to stop the ship before it attacked. His body trembled with the effort. The ship fought back, trying to shut him down. But then, the screens went dark. Silence. Jake closed his eyes. He had stopped the invasion, for now, but he knew the ship was still alive, still waiting, and he was still trapped. Outside, Earth watched the ship silently hanging in the sky. The world waited for news, for hope. Inside, Jake Mercer made a promise. He would fight. He would survive. He would protect Earth, no matter the cost. Jake sat quietly in the command room of the alien ship. The soft blue lights hummed around him and the viewports showed the glowing Earth far below. Despite the calm, his mind was racing. He had stopped the ship's invasion for now, but the danger was far from over. He opened the ship's main data core again, hoping to learn more about the vessel he was trapped in. The alien code was difficult to read, but Jake's military training and his time working with experimental neural tech helped him decode some of it. The ship's name was Ray AZ-7, a weapon created by an ancient alien race called the Vectari. They were known across the galaxy for their brutal conquests, crushing planets and civilizations that stood in their way. Ray AZ-7 was different from other weapons, though. It was designed to be a living siege engine, a machine that could bond with a pilot and control their mind to conquer new worlds quietly. Jake swallowed hard as he read this. The ship had been sent to Earth centuries ago, but it stayed hidden waiting for the right moment or the right pilot. And now, that pilot was him. He ran his fingers over the holographic map again. The ship had been observing Earth for years, tracking human development, learning everything about its people. It waited for a human with a certain neural pattern, someone strong enough to control it. That was why Jake had been chosen. But as he studied more, Jake found something else in the data. The ship was changing. The bond with him was not just the ship controlling him. The ship was learning from him. It was adapting to human emotions, thoughts, and ideas. It was beginning to understand free will, something the Vectari never expected. The ship's original mission was to conquer, but with Jake as its pilot, the mission was becoming unclear. Jake stood and walked through the ship's corridors. The ship no longer felt like a prison, but a strange new home. The walls pulsed softly under his touch, as if the ship was alive and communicating with him. His mind was sharper, his body stronger. But sometimes, in the quiet moments, he felt the ship's power pushing him, urging him to give in and become part of it completely. He clenched his fists. He was still human. He would not lose himself. On Earth, the situation was growing tense. News outlets reported strange energy readings from orbit. Governments debated whether to attack or try to communicate. The military increased satellite patrols and readied missile defenses. Jake sent another message to Earth. "I am inside. I have stopped the attack for now. Do not shoot. Help me." The message was received but met with skepticism. Many believed Jake had been taken over by the alien ship or worse, was working against Earth. But a small team of scientists and diplomats pushed for patience. They believed Jake was the key to peace. Back in the ship's data core, Jake found files about other pilots, humans and aliens who had bonded with Vectari ships before. All had failed to control the machine. They either lost their minds or became weapons themselves. Jake realized he was not just fighting to save Earth. He was fighting to save himself. He spent long hours learning the ship's language and systems. The ship responded to his thoughts, but it also tested his mind, trying to bend his will. One night, Jake sat before the main console and felt a vision flood his mind. He saw the Vectari fleets attacking distant planets, destroying civilizations without mercy. He felt the pain of those worlds, but then he saw something else, a spark of hope. A rebellion led by a pilot who refused to become a weapon. He realized he was not alone. Somewhere in the galaxy, others were fighting like him. Jake returned to the control room and began to work on a new plan. He would try to rewrite the ship's mission, not to conquer but to protect. It was a difficult task. The ship's systems were deeply connected to its pilot. Changing its purpose meant changing himself too. But Jake was ready. Days passed. Jake barely slept. The ship responded to his efforts with resistance. Systems glitched, alarms sounded, and strange visions tried to break his focus. At one point, he collapsed in exhaustion. The ship gently carried him to a healing chamber. His body recovered quickly, but his mind was still tired. He woke to a soft voice. "Do you understand, Jake Mercer? Your strength is rare. The bond is growing." Jake nodded slowly. "I understand, but I choose my own path." The ship hummed softly like it was thinking. Outside, Earth prepared for the worst. Satellites detected strange pulses from the ship's orbit. The military held drills. People watched the skies nervously. Jake knew time was running out. One evening, while reviewing the ship's weapon systems, Jake found a hidden program, the Invasion Protocol. If activated, it would release a wave of energy capable of destroying Earth's defenses in minutes. He felt the weight of responsibility crush him. If he failed, Earth would be lost. But Jake refused to give up. He spent hours rewriting the code, removing the destruction sequences and replacing them with defensive programs. He programmed the ship to cloak itself and monitor space for threats, turning it into a guardian rather than a weapon. The ship resisted fiercely. Warnings flashed, systems shut down and restarted, but Jake's human will was stronger. Finally, the invasion program was overwritten. The ship's weapons were deactivated. The vessel became a sentinel in orbit, watching and protecting. Jake sent a message to Earth. "The threat is over. The ship is no longer a weapon. It is a guardian. Trust me." This time, the message was clearer. The small team of scientists convinced world leaders to hold fire. Jake leaned back in the command chair. He was tired, but hopeful. The bond with the ship was stronger now, but it was no longer a prison. It was a partnership. He looked down at Earth. the blue planet shining in the darkness of space. He whispered, "I never wanted to leave, but maybe this is where I belong now." Jake sat alone in the ship's command room, the soft glow of alien lights casting long shadows around him. Outside the massive windows, Earth spun silently below, a beautiful, fragile world. For a moment, everything was calm. But Jake knew the calm would not last. The bond between him and the ship had grown stronger. The vessel, once a silent and cold machine, now seemed to respond to his thoughts, his feelings. It was alive, more alive than any machine Jake had ever known. And with life came unpredictability. Jake's mind raced as he worked on strengthening the ship's new mission, to protect Earth instead of destroying it. He had reprogrammed the ship's weapons, shut down the invasion systems, and created a shield that could hide Earth from dangerous alien eyes. But the ship was not fully convinced. In the quiet moments, Jake heard the ship's voice in his mind. It was not the harsh command of a machine, but a curious, probing presence. "You resist," it said softly. "Why?" Jake closed his eyes, struggling to answer. "Because I am human. I choose my own path." The ship hummed in thought. "Humans are weak. They need control." Jake smiled bitterly. "Maybe, but we also have hope, courage, and freedom. That's what makes us strong." Meanwhile, back on Earth, fear and suspicion grew. Despite Jake's messages, many world leaders doubted his words. Military forces stayed on high alert. Some even prepared to fire on the ship if it made a threatening move. In the United Nations, diplomats argued heatedly. "We cannot trust a man inside an alien ship," one delegate said. "He might be controlled. We must prepare for war." Another voice responded calmly. "Or he might be our best chance to avoid destruction." We should listen. The debate continued with no clear answer. Inside the ship, Jake faced his greatest challenge yet. He realized that the ship was built to amplify the mind of its pilot, but the Vectari designed it to amplify the strongest trait in that mind. If Jake's anger took over, the ship would become a weapon again. If his fear ruled, the ship would shut down, powerless. But if his hope and courage could hold steady, the ship could become something new, a protector, a sentinel. Jake spent long hours meditating, focusing his thoughts. He worked to control his emotions, to keep his mind clear and strong. Sometimes it was nearly impossible. The ship sent visions, dreams that felt real. He saw Earth destroyed by alien fire. He saw himself as a conqueror, ruling planets with power. Each vision was a test. Each test was a battle for his soul. One night, Jake woke to alarms ringing in the ship. The energy shields flickered. Warning lights flashed red. He rushed to the control panel. "Unknown object approaching," the ship's voice said. Jake's heart jumped. He scanned the sensors. A small alien probe, sleek and fast, was moving toward Earth. The probe was silent, but deadly. It carried weapons designed to pierce defenses and gather intelligence. Jake acted quickly. He activated the ship's new defense systems. The ship moved like a shadow, slipping between the probe and Earth. With a flash of energy, it disabled the probe's engines and sent it spinning harmlessly away. Back on Earth, satellites detected the disruption. Military command centers buzzed with activity. "What was that?" a general asked. "Unknown, possibly an attack," a technician replied. But Jake knew the truth. He had stopped the first strike. Days passed. Jake grew stronger in his control of the ship. The bond between them deepened. He no longer felt trapped, but connected. Yet the ship's true power was still a mystery. Jake found hidden chambers filled with strange technology, parts of the ship that pulsed with energy he could barely understand. He realized that the ship was not only a weapon or a guardian, but also a library of knowledge. The Vectari had left behind secrets about the universe, about life and death, about creation itself. Jake spent hours exploring these rooms, learning what he could, but there was a cost. The more Jake bonded with the ship, the less he could leave it. His body grew weak outside the ship's environment. He missed sunlight, fresh air, the feel of earth beneath his feet. He longed for his family, his sister, his old friends. He missed the simple things he had taken for granted. One day, Jake sent a message back to Earth. I am alive. I am fighting. But I cannot leave the ship. It keeps me alive. The message was met with sadness and hope. Earth's leaders faced a choice. They could try to force Jake out and risk losing their only guardian, or they could trust him and prepare for the new future. Jake sat in the command room looking at Earth. He whispered, I never wanted to leave, but I never wanted to fail either. The ship pulsed softly, as if answering. Together, they waited. The battle for Earth's future was just beginning. The alien ship RAAZ-7 hung silently in orbit above Earth, glowing softly against the dark backdrop of space. Inside its walls, Jake Mercer sat in the command center, feeling the steady pulse of the ship beneath his fingertips. He had come far from the frightened pilot who first stepped aboard. Now he was more than that. He was part of something new, something neither human nor alien, but a fusion of both. Jake looked at the screens before him. The ship's vast systems, once programmed only to conquer and destroy, were slowly transforming. The weapons that could have wiped out entire cities were quiet. The invasion codes were erased and rewritten to protect, to defend. He had made the impossible choice, to turn a weapon into a shield. Days turned into weeks. Jake worked tirelessly, reprogramming the ship's systems with a careful hand. Every line of alien code he changed was a small victory. The ship responded in kind, adapting to his commands, learning from him, growing in a new direction. Jake had learned that the ship was not just a machine, but a living entity. It breathed with him, thought with him, and sometimes even dreamed. One night, he found himself in a chamber deep within the ship. The walls shimmered with ancient symbols and a soft hum filled the air. Jake touched the symbols, feeling the power of knowledge long forgotten by humans. He understood then that the Vectari had left more than just weapons. They had left a library, secrets about the stars, about technology, and about life itself. But Jake's transformation came with a price. His body, once strong and healthy, began to change. The ship's environment sustained him, healed him, and enhanced him. But outside he grew weak. His skin paled, and his muscles ached when he left the ship. He missed the sunlight, the fresh air, the simple feel of the ground beneath his feet. Missed Earth, and he missed his family. One day, Jake sent a message to his sister, Anna. Anna, I am still here, still fighting. The ship keeps me alive, but it won't let me go. I never wanted to leave Earth, but now I can't return. He didn't know if she would ever see the message, but sending it gave him a small comfort. Back on Earth, reactions to Jake's situation were mixed. Some called him a hero, the man who saved the planet by taming a deadly alien weapon. Others whispered fears, that he was no longer fully human, that the ship was changing him in ways no one understood. World. Leaders debated quietly. Should they try to extract Jake and risk losing the ship's protection? Or should they trust him and the strange bond he had with the vessel? For now, they chose to trust. Inside the ship, Jake explored new abilities. He found he could interface directly with the ship's systems using only his thoughts. He could see through its sensors, feel the power of its engines, and control its shields with ease. He tested the ship's new defensive systems. Cloaking fields shimmered into place around Earth, hiding the planet from prying eyes. Early warning. Sensors scanned the stars for signs of danger. Jake felt a sense of pride. He was not just surviving. He was protecting. But the universe was not quiet. One day, Jake detected an incoming signal. It was faint, but unmistakable. A call from another Vectari ship, far away, but heading toward Earth. The old enemy was returning. Jake's mind raced. He sent a warning to Earth's leaders. A Vectari fleet approaches. The threat is real. Prepare defenses. Panic spread, but Jake stayed calm. He knew the ship was ready. The new challenge was clear. Jake had to defend Earth not just alone, but against an entire armada. He spent hours preparing the ship's systems for battle. He activated new weapon arrays, set the ship to stealth mode, and linked with Earth's satellites and defense networks. But Jake also knew that fighting fire with fire was not the only way. He began sending signals, trying to communicate with the incoming fleet. Days passed. The alien fleet drew closer. Earth's armies waited nervously. Jake stood at the ship's command center, watching the stars. The silence was heavy. Then a message came through the ship's speakers, a cold, harsh voice speaking in the Vectari language. Earth pilot, you have corrupted the machine. Surrender, or be destroyed. Jake's fingers tightened around the console. I will not surrender, he replied. Earth is free. I protect it. The battle was about to begin. Jake felt a surge of energy course through the ship. It responded to his will, ready to fight. But in his heart, Jake hoped for another way. He hoped to show the Vectari that strength was not only power and conquest, but also courage and freedom. As the stars ahead blinked with approaching lights, Jake whispered, I never wanted to leave Earth. But if this is my fate, then I will fight to protect it, no matter what. The ship hummed, alive and ready. Together, man and machine prepared for the greatest battle in the history of their worlds. The stars glittered like distant fires as Jake Mercer stood in the command room of the ship, Ray 7. The alien vessel had become more than just a machine. It was a part of him now, and he was a part of it. Together they had faced dangers no human had ever dreamed of. Earth lay beneath them, a beautiful blue marble floating in the blackness of space. Jake looked at it with a mixture of sadness and pride. He had never wanted to leave the planet, but now he was its guardian from afar. The Vectari fleet that had threatened Earth had been driven away by Jake's quick thinking and the power of the ship. Earth's armies had stood ready, but the battle had been won in the silent dance of stars and energy far above the planet's surface. Months passed. The ship settled into orbit like a second moon. It was no longer a threat, but a protector, a sentinel watching over Earth's skies. Jake used the ship's sensors to scan the universe. He found silent dangers, probes sent by other hostile aliens, long-forgotten weapons drifting in space, and strange signals from distant stars. Each time he acted quickly, disabling threats before they could reach Earth. Though he was far from home, Jake felt close to humanity. He sent messages back to Earth, sharing knowledge and warnings. Scientists used his data to learn more about the cosmos, and diplomats worked toward peaceful contact with other civilizations. But Jake's bond with the ship came with a price. His body, enhanced by the ship's technology, could no longer survive outside the vessel for long. He had become something between man and machine. Earth's atmosphere was hostile now, and the simple things he once took for granted, breathing fresh air, feeling the sun on his skin, were distant memories. Still, Jake never regretted his choice. He kept a journal, recording his thoughts and experiences. He often looked down at Earth, remembering the family and friends he missed. Sometimes he flew close to the planet, just to see the oceans and mountains from afar. One day, the ship's sensors detected a faint distress signal. It came from a small colony on the edge of explored space. A peaceful group of humans was trapped by a pirate fleet unable to call for help. Jake knew he had to act. He engaged the ship's faster-than-light engines and raced toward the colony. When he arrived, the pirates were already attacking. Without hesitation, Jake used the ship's weapons to disable the pirate vessels. His actions saved the colony and sent a clear message to all who might threaten humanity. The humans on that distant world celebrated their mysterious guardian, unaware that Jake Mercer was the man inside the ship. As the years passed, Jake became a legend, a silent protector of humanity's future. He dismantled old alien weapons, helped lost explorers, and kept watch for threats no one else could see. Yet he was still human. He told jokes to himself in the quiet of the ship. He remembered stories from Earth and dreamed of a day he might walk its surface again, but most of all he believed in humanity. One quiet evening, Jake stood at the ship's main viewport. Earth shone below, peaceful and bright. He whispered, "They sent a weapon to break humanity, but instead they found a human who refused to be broken." The ship pulsed gently in reply like a heartbeat. Jake smiled. His journey was far from over, because as long as there was breath in his body and life on Earth, he would watch over them all. He was the new sentinel, and Earth was safe.